Hello, everybody. It's Friday night, and it is Weekender time once more. Spring is gone, midsummer is here, and it's time to take you through a week's worth of all the best gaming news we can find you. On top of that, one lucky viewer will be in with a chance to win a copy of Escape From Stalingrad Z, the deluxe edition, a narrative adventure as you flee from Stalingrad in World War II. It contains everything you need to play, plus lovely miniatures for all the zombies, heroes, and creepy bosses that you may stumble across as you escape the city of the dead. To be in with a chance to win, you need to be a subscriber to the channel and pop a comment below. If you can do all the rest of the good stuff on the social media thingies, then do that as well. You probably know them better than I. Otherwise, sit back and relax because your summer starts here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekender. Ben and Justin are with me this week to have a little chat about all the tabletop-y things that we've seen that's caught our eye.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
There's been some corkers.
There have been. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, we'll be discussing the most important thing in the world. How I've avoided going to Sweden for midsummer once again, so they can't kill me.
They can't push you off a cliff.
Can't push me off a cliff, can't set me on fire.
Can't melt.
All of that and so much more.
You know, I imagine Jerry going anywhere warm. It's like untempered chocolate that just.
It's pretty much like that.
Yeah.
Pretty much like that. But yeah, if you happen to be celebrating midsummer in the Scandinavia, enjoy yourselves. Try not to kill too many tourists.
I saw that they actually allowed loads of people to go into the ring around Stonehenge and stuff again this time around, which is pretty good.
You say allowed. I think if enough people turn up and go, yeah, we're doing this, they're like, well, crap.
Well, that's true, I suppose.
It's always been allowed. Well, one of the reasons that some mad fella bought it, gave it to his wife, and it was done on the grounds that people are allowed access to it for Midsummer Morning. Yeah. So they always, I don't know if it's like Newgrange where they have a lottery, because there's only so many people who can fit in Newgrange to see the sausage rising. But, you know, spending my morning in a passage tomb, not up there. It ranks up there with being pushed off a cliff in Sweden. It's not happening. Anyway.
I'm just wondering which cliff in Sweden. Do they have like a specific one just for Jerry?
I think it depends on the village in question. I suppose they all have their own executional cliff.
Yeah. Ask Florence Pugh. That's what you need to do.
It does mean, however, spring is gone, which means we are starting to look at the Spring Clean Challenge entries. So we'll probably look to do that next week, he said, maybe.
Okay,
depends how many there are to get through.
So a week to prepare the chicken dinner.
That type of thing. But yeah, if you've entered the Spring Clean Challenge over on tabletop.com, then we will be looking at your work and judging you. We're all about the judging. But that's about the height of it, really. We should crack on with the show because there's a lot to get through.
Yes, indeed.
And we will be kicking off this week with the most important part of the show, which is, of course, the Indie of the Week.
Which is always Jerry's favorite bit.
It is my favorite bit. It's the bit that doesn't suck the most.
We got to look at Noggin the Nog last week. What could have been better?
Which
how do we top it?
Introduced a whole rake of people to Noggin the Nog who were unaware of the Nog's work. This week, hopefully, we'll be introducing a whole rake of people to Beowulf, because we're going to be taking a look at Handiworks and their library of games.
Okay, so not the crappy CGI movie.
No, nobody's ever watched that.
There's no Ray Winston in this. No.
So Handiwork Games, which is John Hodgson, who's a fantastic artist. He's worked for a ton of companies. He was art direction in chief for Cubicle 7 for a long time. So
yeah, he did a lot of stuff on the Adventures in Middle Earth range and the One Ring and stuff like that.
So chief cat herder,
that type of thing. But he's worked on a whole host of games. This is his own little company, Handiwork, and it's fairly stonking, I think, is the best way to put it. There are 4 games that are RPG based that we'll talk about. The main focus is going to be Beowulf, because wow, there's a lot going on with this.
It's so good.
Now it is a 5e system. Don't let that put you off. You can run this with other RPGs. So if you're, a RuneQuest fan, or if you've got other generic sort of fantasy sort of stuff, go nuts with it. Or historic Pendragon, maybe. Actually, it'd be really good to run with Pendragon, because then you've got lineages, because you're always developing your offspring. So there's a lot of the fantasy elements, as we would think of them from 5e, have sort of been not stripped out, but ignored, pushed to one side. Everybody in it is going to be human, as far as the heroes go and the followers. But the fascinating thing is, it's a single player game, so it's not solo. It's a games master +1.
Yeah.
Oh.
There are advanced rules, or not advanced rules, but there are rules for making it into other people. But the whole point of these epic sagas is you are a hero of daring do. So when you think of things like the Beowulf tale, it's not Beowulf and 15 other heroes all clubbing some poor monster to death in the lair. It's Beowulf plus his followers / crew being picked off and getting lamped for their troubles.
Even Wiglaf leaves him to it most of the time. So.
Yeah, well, you would. It's best not to get involved with them. But there are obviously hero classes and the like that will be familiar to D&D players. If you do play 5e and you want to use this as a basis for a different style of game, like a one-player narrative, obviously that is very much a possibility as well, because there's some fascinating stuff going on here. If I get to the contents page, this is a great way of doing it, of explaining what's going on here. I think this would be excellent for people who haven't role-played before, but potentially want to, because a lot of RPG books, the rules are great, but they more or less work on the principle that everybody is some sort of bottled author who are going to craft a story right out of the gates. And for Ben, that's probably true. For the rest of us mere mortals, we need to find other ways to do it. And there's a lot of stuff in Beowulf that works like a really good toolkit. So some of it is tables based, which I like. I love random tables. If I'm given the opportunity to pick from a choice of things or roll randomly on a table, I will always roll.
Yes, always roll for it.
Random is the spice of life. However, you might be able to see there the adventure. So this is like a 270-page supplement book to create Beowulf, and in the middle of it, the adventure runs from page 96 to 135. Well, at least. Starts on 135, 138. Let's split the difference, 137. You've got 40 odd pages there of step by step how you tell your narrative story. So beginning the adventure, the preparations that you need to do, the mead hall and mystery. So where the setting is. So each part is there, which means you can sit down and you can plan out and have a structure. And it follows that sort of narrative structure of Beowulf and some of the other sagas. So it gives you a really good grounding on how you create a campaign or a story or an adventure, whatever you want to call it, for a new player. And if you're a new GM, that step-by-step guide is beyond gold in its value. I mean, it's just takes all the heavy lifting and sort of divides it up like that for you. So that's excellent. Obviously, there's also things like the monsters and bestiary section, which includes a lot of mythic and folkloric creatures from both Germanic and Anglo-Saxon sort of myth, Scandinavian. There's trolls in there, so wherever they first sort of crept
as
from,
you'd expect.
I think that's my favorite word that Jerry came up with was Scandinavian.
I didn't come up with it. My father would refer to it as Scandinavian, and years later a friend went, "Where did that come from?" And I went,
"You've adopted it,"
and he looked it up, and apparently it's a naval thing. So okay. He must have picked it up in the Navy. Anyway,
well, my favorite thing that I learned from Jerry that he apparently co-opted.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like about it, when you mentioned it there, is that that thing for new people coming into a role playing game. It's got the basics of like the 5e mechanics there, which are easy enough to grasp for anybody really. But if you're sitting down to like maybe your kid or like a teenager or something, or maybe two teenagers, brothers and sisters, whatever, are like, oh man, role playing is really cool, but I can't get like a whole bunch of people to sit down and play it. One of the nice things about, and there's something that Handiwork have said themselves, is that it's just a great way for you to almost constantly have something to do every week. Sit down and go through an adventure. And because there's less pressure of you having to balance it for like 3 or 4 players or something like that, it's just you and the other person sitting at the table. I think it's a really fun way to do storytelling and to get back to that element of play that I think sometimes you lose occasionally. And, you know, people do this kind of thing in co-op games and survival games and stuff that they tell stories in with video games. So why not do that kind of thing with tabletop games on the know?
Oh God, yeah. Down, so, the other thing is, because it's just 2 people playing, it's handy when you've got other games arranged and then somebody cancels.
Yeah.
You know, as a backup, you know,
you're my Beowulf buddy.
I mean, kidnap is an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting little thing they sell is this card deck. I don't know if you've seen this, but on the scroll work on the back, each of the gems is numbered. However, the entire deck of cards, those numbers are randomized, and it can go, you know, 1 3 3 4 1, or it might be only like there you have 1 2 4, or you know, so there are different amounts and different iterations of numbers on the back. So you shuffle the cards, you place one face down, that tells you your story composition, and then they use an example here where they pull out this, so you don't flip over the card, that is your story, and it's a 1 2 3 3 4. And then you flip over your first card and you read the 1, so it's a lost treasure. And then 2, it's a youth. 3, the sea. 3 again, a hearth. And then 4, a helmet. So your narrative adventure contains the hooks of a lost treasure, the youth, the sea, a helmet.
That's so cool.
Which means you can just go, oh, well, right off the bat, what's the treasure? It could be the helmet. Might not be. It's up to you. But that, again, not just for Beowulf, but for any RPG or any GM out there.
Yeah.
Random hook things like that are great.
Well, it's something I was thinking listening to this is most RPG storylines have a similar beat to them. You know, go to place, find out about thing that needs killed up, make your way to thing that needs killed up, find smaller things along the way which you kill up anyway, and rob. Go kill the big thing, go get loot.
It's certainly one way of doing it.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to bring up some of the PDFs. There are, or there is rather, a free kit, a free basic kit that you can go and download.
Comes with a lot of stuff in it as well.
And it comes with a lot of stuff, which is one of the reasons why I want to bring it up. So it's called the Hermit Sanctuary. And if you grab it from... Let's do that. If you grab it from Drive-Thru RPG for the low price of nothing at all, you get a 63-page adventure. I'm not going to go through this all because obviously if people decide they will want to run it for their friends, spoilers. But we'll start off with a few bits. So first off is your Hall for Hero, which is just a little 2-table setup to generate where your mead hall is, where the adventure either starts or takes place. And it's very Beowulf-esque in that there's a lot of, it's noun, adjective type of thing going on, you know, so the hearth is huge.
Hang on, can I go grab a D6 and just quickly roll through this?
If you want, yeah.
Let's do it. You need a D8 and a D4 as well.
Yeah, he's already gone. Don't worry. I'll just set them out because we'll also need like D12 and D20 for the next page when we get to who's running it.
Just because it will amuse me.
Go on then. You give me your D6. So your hearth is
4.
Narrow.
6.
Ruined hall.
Ruined hall.
Then it's a D4.
Yep,
so that'll be a 2.
Okay. Crowded with
3.
A kindly kin.
And
then a 4.
Famous for lacking in.
So
D8.
lacking in a 8.
a warm welcome. Oh, well, not surprised when your hall
then-
is falling apart
and then a 5 and a 5.
at the edge of the sea, surrounded by a great ditch and dike. So, yes.
So your people are friendly and warm to those that they know. It's very, this is for local people.
Then your ruler could be a queen, generous in her ways, a teller of tall tales.
It's a really nice,
Hard
quick way to build a baseline character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're traveling from place to place in your ship, you're going to run into all sorts of kings, all of little minor places. I mean, well, Ireland was full of them. And every town pretty much had a king. So you've got that.
I was going to say that's going to be really fun because I've got the One Ring and I play through the One Ring RPG, and in that you have the audience system where you meet people and you have to ingratiate yourself with them in order to gain favors and that kind of thing. So having something like that would be really awesome for setting up characters that you meet that you have to then sort of work with and stuff later on down the line. That's really cool. Yeah.
You start off with your little Beowulf-esque, what a far-flung isle, mist-mantled, rune-deep, surrounded by the whale's way, a speck of footfall firmly set.
It's so evocative.
Unravelled, blades bite dulled, fates weave woe and warp and weft.
He's almost went off flighting.
So it does explain if you don't know about Beowulf, doesn't matter. This is essentially Bronze Age or sort of Iron Age myth. So you don't need to know about Anglo-Saxon to do so. If you do, so much the better. It's a framework, really. But if I get on a little bit, there's some interesting mechanics. There is a portent that's laid down on the hero at the start, and it uses what they call the inspiration wheel. I'm just going to throw forward there. There we go. So this, you generate your tokens for this wheel that will be used throughout the adventure at the start, and you can either buy like a neoprene one with like MDF or metal tokens to put on it, which looks fantastic.
Nice.
Or you can just print one out. They have a printable version, but it's a wheel that's split in 3, and the tokens get dropped into either the player pool, the GM, or the follower, and your followers are like named NPCs who will help you out. So if you think things like Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate, those style of computer RPG where even though you're the main character, you have a selection of followers that you can bring with you who are supplementary and support characters who can fight, who can heal, whatever. Same sort of idea here. Your followers should always be involved. It's not just you beating heads. But also when you're doing that, you roll dice so that you roll 2d3, you'll generate an adjective. You'll do this twice. You go adjective, noun, and that will tell you the portent for the adventure. And then the color code will tell you whether those tokens go to the GM to give GM little buff, or to your hero or your followers. And then throughout the adventure, they can be spent. So you can end up with things like a runus bearer, worthy wisdom, whatever it happens to be, a little 4-word thing, which you then tie back into your adventure. So if portents work kind of like geas in Irish myth, so you would have something foretold at your birth. So like, don't kill the dog that bites you type of thing. And it's not necessarily a curse. If you maintain your geas, then good fortune will follow you. If you break it, then misfortune will occur. So sometimes they're viewed as sort of like if you do this you will die. It's not always the way, but these portents then sort of set up the tone for the adventure that's coming as well. And if you can then tie back to the portent that was cast, the runes that were rolled when you set off, then you get a chance to gain sort of bonuses. So when something happens, you go, well, the ancient wisdom that was foretold, I have discovered it within this realm. the book or the storyteller or whatever it was that comes to tell you about it, then you get bonuses. So it's up to you. It's a very narrative driven game, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I just quickly rolled it. So I got an ancient hall with ruinous shields.
Oh,
which makes sense for your decrepit.
That fits your hall.
Your decrepit hall that you're going to run into. There are a set of pre-generated characters as well. I mean, we're all thinking it. Set of pre-generated characters, which are quite nice because they've also made miniatures of these.
Nice.
Now, as they say themselves, you don't need to use miniatures in an RPG. However, if you choose to use miniatures, they have them available. They also do stuff for Foundry.
Virtual
tabletop.
Yeah.
Those are the words, which means you've got, depending on how you role play, you've got options for all of them, really, which is always good, I feel. I'm just going to jump back to the website itself.
I know Jerry role plays correctly.
Yes. 100%, yes. As you can see, there are accessories. So there are multiple, so they've released multiple PDFs and then they've combined those PDF adventures into a physical book. So the Trials at the Twin Seas are one of these things. There's the inspiration tokens and matte. If you don't want to just use the printout version, probably,
the metal ones look so good.
The metal ones are
I love the D20s.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
So it's all about the knob work. It's all about, I mean, like I say, John's a fantastic artist, and so when they do actually make the physical components, it's right up there. Even things like the little compass rose. So just little things. I know some people will go, completely unnecessary, and you're right, it is completely unnecessary. Yeah. But when you start getting into games, you go, I'd really like to have those.
I mean, we enjoy our frippery.
Yeah, those cards I think are worth the price of admission.
I tell you what. Because summer holidays coming up, people are going to be going off on holiday, going camping, all that kind of thing. Imagine sitting around a little barbecue or a fire. When you're off on holiday, you've printed out the Hermit Sanctuary stuff, or you've got it on your on like a pad or something, and just sitting down and doing that would be so fun. Oh,
God, yes.
If you can find a meat hall to sit in as well, that's even better. But
that is the way to go.
I'm just thinking outdoors, fire pit, big bottle of mead.
Yes. Yeah.
So here are the miniatures. They are available in two ways: as nature intended, cast in metal, as a full pack, including the pre-generated characters, the monster, and they all match
really good sculpts as well.
Yeah, they all match the illustrations. They're also available as a set of STLs,
nice,
as well. So if you do that printy thing, then you can do that as well.
Print away.
I will also say that Otherworld did a Beowulf and Grendel miniature, which was done with a license with Jonathan Green, who did like a really fun choose your own adventure book. So if you are looking for like an actual Beowulf and an actual Grendel, you've got some options there as well, which is really cool.
So as you can see, if I bring up the Beowulfy bit, Age of Heroes and Trial of the Twin Seas are out. King Beowulf is currently in progress. Hermit Sanctuary is the free stuff we were looking at there, and then you've got digital packs, the accessories, annuals, downloads. They do a regularish podcast as well. Which they do
it's made for podcasts,
yeah. There's a lot going on with Beowulf. But before we vanish away from Handiworks, they've a lot of other things as well that I want to touch on, because it would be terrible not to. So first up is A State. Which is, how do you explain it? Not a prison. It's like a mega city.
Right.
It's definitely not a prison. You can't leave. Nobody leaves. Once you're in for good. I believe this is the second edition. The first edition, I don't think was made by Handiworks, but they brought it over and sort of really developed it. It runs off the, what's it? Fate of Blades, is that it? Oh, I can't remember. It says here somewhere. It's Forged in the Dark. That's it.
Forged in the Dark.
Forged in the Dark, which is the generic version of a D6 based game. Again, it's a very heroic style of thing, even though the game itself is the game's difficult to define. It cyberpunk meets Dickens, maybe.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, everything was a bit grim and you know, people think Victoriana, but whenever you think Victoriana, it covers a wide space of the world, and you know, some of it was quite nice. Think Dickensian. Everything's bleak. Everything's grey. People are kept down. Children are
Sounds
pickpockets.
cool. Yeah.
You know, but then within this massive city state, where you can explore various aspects of it, you know.
So you're free to do whatever you want in the city, but just not leave the city.
Well, you know, why would you leave the city? You don't have to worry about. Oh, they used Dickensian as well. That's okay. It may be something small. You may have an adventure that's like a small little thing within your estate, block, building, whatever it happens to be. Maybe you're just trying to make things better for the people around you. You're the one with impetus and energy and you know, the ability to push and to do these things.
You too can battle against cyberfagin.
That type of thing. Yeah. I mean, and it's probably not a bad way to go to begin with.
I mean, honestly, doing that in this world could be kind of a fun RPG session.
Yeah, that could be neat.
Yeah. The artwork throughout this is just, the artwork sells the world, I think, and explains far better than words. So you can see that the city sort of grew up and develop, and there are like ring canals that divide sections of the city, but also are ways of moving and traveling throughout the city itself of A State. So it's interesting. It's also interesting that once again they use waterways to connect things in a very Beowulfy style. You know, the water is not a barrier; it's a means of connection.
I mean,
which
looking at the world,
these days.
Looking at the world, I kind of want to play like a sneak thiefy smuggler type that's just, you know, taking cargo from one block to another.
I mean,
and Justin's made his character.
It's probably possible.
Yeah.
Just, you know, don't get caught. I think isn't that the way it goes?
You know, you're only sorry when you get caught.
That's true.
That is very, very true. So
that's really cool. Yeah.
A grim future world, you know, worthy of exploration, I think. The next pair are very interesting. So Silver Road is a minimalist RPG.
Okay.
24 pages. It was developed using AI, artwork and the like. So back in 2020, 2021, before people had heard of Midjourney, he was using it, and it's creepy, I think, is the way to go. So 24 pages. You use, I think, a single D6. You have like 2 things you're good at, 2 things you're bad at. There's no sort of middle ground. You tell your stories narratively. There's no hit points when something hits you or damages you. You describe what's happened, why this has crept in, where the wounds have been suffered, what's happened to you that way. It's very much about storytelling, not about rolling dice. It's interesting that they used Midjourney. Now they have subsequently, since the past couple of years, when AI artwork has been scraping off things like nobody's business, and they've been going, we're going to replace artists. You don't need to be an artist. We'll sell you access to our AI program. So from that initial beginning, where John was going, this is something that we can use to make these weird and wacky things, which it was part and parcel of the look of the game, was the fact that it was sort of surreal, ethereal, ephemeral AI creations in there. Subsequently, it's gone from the second edition onwards that they're going to use traditional artists again. It's not like they didn't have access. I mean, he could have done it all himself. It was specifically at the time, it was new, and you could go in and play with it. And it's like, oh, this is interesting, and this is how this works. And then subsequently, it's gone the direction.
Fascinating.
The direction that the people running the AI have taken is, you know, terrible. They are terrible people. So Silver Road is sort of the main game, but again, very small, very light. Mask Witches of Forgotten Doggerland. Again, I think this was AI based. In fact, no, it was definitely AI based. This is a prehistoric RPG using the Silver Road sort of thing. So you are literally in a
psychedelic Mesolithic setting.
Yeah. So before Doggerland slipped beneath the waves, there were weird things creeping around, and the masked witches were the ones who protected the hunter-gatherers who were living in the realm. And it's absolute. Well, yeah, it's psychedelic. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking your character has that mushrooms.
Yeah, well,
the bad kind.
There is no bad kind if it keeps you alive. It's all protein. Don't worry about it. But the mask witches themselves have, in the same way you've got like 2 good, 2 bad things in Silver Road, you have like 2 amulets, 2 masks, and they give you certain abilities or attributes or ways of defining your character and helping you play. However, they're not tied to you. You could swap the masks with other party members, other witches, which means that your identity / personality is more fluid than being fixed solely to these sort of things.
I like that.
Which is a really interesting concept. Again, very much on the narrative sort of kick of things. You can see here some examples. And this, they used a mixture of AI plus crafted models and materials to put together the book, and you can see some
quite horrifying,
wacky stuff there.
I like that they seem to be very much champions of world building and mood and setting, which is really cool and very integral to sitting down for a role-playing game where you need a sense of escapism.
I also like
leave the tabletop and be in a new place, kind of thing. Yeah.
I also like the fact that apart from being Mesolithic and weird, there's also a 1970s version. So there's 1970s Doggerland within it, which I think is told in flashback. So you are living possibly, today, if you're a kid in the 70s, you'd be in your 40s or 50s now. And then you tell the tales of what happened down by the beach near that Doggerland place when you were a kid. Anybody who's unaware of Scarfolk and Scarfolk Council should definitely look at potentially picking up this to run in Scarfolk, because it's already off the radar insane, but trapped permanently in the 70s. Once you hit December 31st, 1979, it resets to January 1st, 1970, and just does that again. It's a permanent decade of the 70s. And I just think taking Mask Witches, that 70s version, and chucking it in there would be interesting.
So, I love how everything looks like the cover for an album from like the 80s or something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like someone during like the 70s has just written a children's novel, which is a horror novel, but they're not saying it's a horror novel. But
I mean, all children's books in the old days were creepy horror novels.
That's true. Hello, Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
You need to, I feel like there should be some Sigur Rós playing in the background whenever you do anything with this.
give me a touch of the old Glosoli. Yeah. But yeah, so you get things like these. The
insects. No.
The spirits of the land. Don't worry, I don't think they can be defined as insects if they're bigger than an elephant. But this tells you a bit about the spirits of the land that people may.
It just means they can eat Justin rather than just annoying him. That's
no.
And then the naming of spirits is a big thing.
Wow.
Where that sort of demonology, if you know the true name type,
you can control it, kind of thing.
Control it. I don't think it works the same way here.
Right.
I think there's a certain amount of, if you know the true name, then all you're going to do is upset them. Especially if the true name is something a bit comical. As it says early on, lots of children get eaten by spirits because they know the name. The name sounds funny, like Mr. Poopy Bum. Going, that maybe its true name. Don't laugh at it though, because it will just rip you apart. So yeah, creepy, bizarre,
very cool,
strange.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, all of their RPGs are like that. We'll sum it up in a second. I would just like to show The Forest Dragon by Rory Age 9 to give it its full title. This is John's son.
Brilliant.
It is a card game that has many expansions. The card game itself is exploring a forest. It's from 2 to as many players until the deck of cards runs out. So it's like every you start with 20 cards, and for every new player you add 5 cards, and then all you're doing is flipping cards and finding stuff to help you, or finding monsters, or finding equipment, or occasionally little quest givers. But all the artwork was drawn by Rory, and I think Rory's brother as well, whose name escapes me. So Rory's age 9, his brother I think was 5. So you get, like, it's very simple.
Ghost milk.
whoever has the most points at the end wins, type thing. And there's some stuff like monsters will end your go. It's like a push your luck mechanic game. You can keep flipping cards until something happens that you will end your go, or until you go, no, I'm good. Some things will appear which will take your points away, like a boggart may pop out, and
what the witch bottle does.
And the person to your these are just points values, so they're just things you find. But then you get things like the pie man or mother fox. There's a squirrel
Keep
prince.
the pie man in your backpack.
So the everything goes to your backpack area, which is the bit in front of you. The squirrel prints, if you finish the game with any nuts in your backpack, they're worth double the points. So, but here you can see some of the evil creatures that you'll run into, like the cursed crocodile knight or the wolf pig.
Dangerous wolf.
I'm just going to say the poison worm looks mildly suspicious.
They're all great, all drawn by children, Justin. So that's just a fun.
Clearly,
game.
Rory has been brought up right.
I mean,
it's a cool one.
Yeah, and I just like the expansions. It's really John does a little 10-minute playthrough video over on their YouTube channel, and he goes, you can work out who goes first. Generally, it's going to be the youngest player because they've got the greatest need to go first. And you're going, yeah, sure, why not? But it's so simple, just a little push your luck mechanic card game. Yeah. But yeah, overall, handiwork. All of their games push narrative, push world building. With a big there are heroic characters. Obviously, when you're playing Beowulf, you are a hero. A state, you've got that sort of larger than life heroic thing. But even in the likes of the Masked Witches and Silver Road, it's probably not easy to die. In some cases, if you fail a roll, and because you're narrating how you're getting injured or who's getting injured, sometimes it doesn't have to be you. The onus is on you to tell the story, so you're not just going checkbox, wound 1, checkbox 2, wound 2.
It's more of a cooperative endeavor kind of thing. Yeah.
What's happened? Broken a leg. How's that going to impact you? Well, for the rest of this game, it's going to be splintered up, and you're going to be slowed down, and maybe not be able to climb walls or whatever. So new routes have to be chosen. It's all about narrative storytelling. Nice. And I, for one, approve.
Totally on board.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So there we go. Handiwork games. Be there or be a rectangular thing. What? Right. We shall take a break and come right back with the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, we are back and taking a look at the news. And first off, broadsword.
Don't tell me, is it back again?
Oh yeah. So Heroquest is getting its first actual new expansion in a very long time. Obviously, a lot of people will know that Hasbro and Avalon Hill bought back Heroquest with its actual fancy, legitimate version of the game, not the weird one, that you could dive into. And they recreated the core game as well as a whole host of different expansion content for the game that came out back in the day. So if you were new to the game, you'd not played it back then, you could dive in and start sort of delving into your sort of dungeon questing adventures on the tabletop with all the sort of classic mechanics and everything else, but with a whole host of new miniatures and updated art and all that kind of thing. But Rise of the Dread Moon is the first new expansion for Heroquest in a long while that will see you getting access to a brand new hero called the Knight that is shown there in little red miniature, as you can see. And you'll be trying to free Elathorn from the clutches of Zargorn, which sounds like a proper sword and sorcery mystery to me.
All right. I get nostalgia is a huge thing, but is HeroQuest worth it to begin with?
according to a lot of people who have played it, it's been really fun to play with their kids because it's simple, easy to dive into and play with. And a lot of the time, these people have played Heroquest back in the day, and they've sort of cracked it out once again and sort of brought it back to the tabletop and had lots of fun. It's obviously not as in depth, not as detailed as something like Gloomhaven or Dungeon Saga or something like that, but it's been definitely designed so you can sort of dive into that kind of, an introductory adventure
to dungeon delving. Yeah, it's never
Sure.
going to be.
I can accept that.
It's never going to be super involved and in depth because everything's relatively light. What I would say is, if you are planning on playing it with your kids, do yourself a favor and buy a set of average dice.
Yes.
For movement. And
make sure they don't roll a 1.
that way you don't have to worry about one hero herring off around half the board because they've rolled multiple double 6s in a row and everybody else languishing in the first room. Average dice for movement, and then they have the combat dice for regular combat, so they're going to be swapping them anyway. But it just makes life easier for navigating.
But so the game comes with obviously the miniature there for the new knight hero that you can use in the game. They've done previously sort of male and female versions of the different characters, but obviously because this is a heavily armored knight, you're not going to tell.
You can't tell. Yeah.
So it can be used for whichever gender you want to go for. But yes, there's also a whole host of other miniatures in the set as well. You've got your elven warriors, you've got your dread cultists, you've got specters and dread wraiths and all the other awesome sort of villainous foes that you're going to be coming up against. You've also got a new game tile that can be added to the baseboard alongside loads of additional 3D terrain for when you want to make things 2.5D, which is pretty cool as well. You're going to need to have the core game in order to play this, obviously, because there's not much else in there apart from that. But it will give you a good sort of jumping off point for diving into more adventures in Heroquest. As I say, loads of the existing expansions are out there right now. So if you want to go and sort of experience some of the tales told in Heroquest back in the day, you can do. This is available to pre-order through Hasbro Pulse, but there's also loads of other pre-orders available over on different web stores as well. And if it's anything like the stuff that came out for the sort of revamped HeroQuest, you can sort of dive in and pick those up later on down the line as well, if you would prefer to do so.
I wonder if they've avoided the problem the first time round where they went, it's Hasbro Pulse, but if you're not in America, jog on.
Well, I've already heard that there's a bunch of retailers who are already accepting pre-orders for it. I can't remember exactly where they are, so it's well worth checking, obviously. But as I say, I know a lot of companies are selling the base version of Heroquest anyway.
I think the pushback against them would lead me to believe that it would be very, very stupid of them to do it like that a second time.
Well, you say stupid, maybe they just don't care.
Better call me, better call them be.
So take your brave knight, make them how you see fit, and go off on 10 quests to expand your HeroQuest adventures. Sounds very awesome. As someone who managed to get their hands on a copy of HeroQuest, the old one, for £2.50 from a charity store.
Winner. Right there. It doesn't matter. The game is shallow. £2.50 is a stocking price.
I am definitely going to be having something like this. I think it could be really cool. As I say, a lot of people said it looks really nice. So definitely one to have a look at.
Cool.
Right. Next up, the Wadrun.
Yeah. So forget being beach body ready. This is all about Wadrun summer.
Gotta get that warbot on.
Yeah. Muscles all the way. So this is Wadrun Summer from the folks at Parabellum Wargames. They're making it a thing. Make it a hashtag. This is celebrating a whole host of new miniatures for the Wadrun to be dropped into your games of Conquest. At the core of this is the new Tontor, as you can see there. So another awesome dinosaur miniature. The beard is optional, just so you're aware. So you don't have to put the beard on if you don't want to. As a lot of people have already been like, I like the miniature, but I don't like the beard. Don't worry, you can take it off.
I mean, that's basically just a Savage Society RV.
Well, yes, I suppose, actually, yeah. So this is the big sort of bundle that you can sort of pre-order from the folks at Parabellum. It's kind of like their kind of in-house community crowdfunder type thing. It comes with the big Tontor, as you can see there. You also get the Chieftain Tontor rider leaping from the back alongside that sort of scenic base that is made using the hunting pack miniatures. And you also get a bunch of stickers because if you are riding an ancient primeval RV, you need some stickers to put on the back of it. So that's now all I can think of, Justin.
Yeah, fair.
As well as being able to get the Tontor, as you can see there, there's also just a standard version as well. So you'll be able to get the War Drum version, which is your kind of basic version of the Tontor to use in your games. But who wouldn't want to go all out with your fantasy RV? Have fun with that. So very cool.
I like all the little teeny tiny dinos clinging off it.
Yes, it's very cool.
Nice touch.
It's
nice for the Wadroon. I mean, they already have some pretty awesome miniatures in their collection anyway with the Apex Predator. Yeah, but to have another big standout piece like this, especially at their scale, which is 35 mil as well, this thing's going to tower over the battlefield, which is always nice.
I do like the alternate head without the beard,
where he's chomping on some foliage,
some leafage.
Yeah, some Jurassic Park style. So if you too go over the cliff in your Jeep, you can say hello to the tall necks.
Oh dear.
But yeah, so as well as them, there's also the pre-orders for the Thunder Riders. So these are, as you might have imagined, shock cavalry.
Yeah,
they're going to be bundling.
I'm sorry, why the hats?
Because they need to keep the sun off them. Yeah, so.
Yeah. You've got to keep the sun off your head. You would know that. If you go outside in this weather, you'd end up with a big red head on you. They don't want a big red head.
No, I don't burn, I bake.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, so this is the set of 3 Thunder Riders that you can get as your kind of base unit in the game. Again, as I say, they're going to be shock cavalry. You can assemble them, as you can see there, or you can do them as like command variants. So if you wanted to have different versions of them, you can do. This also came on the back of the new Artisan series miniature that was designed as well. So they did the Thunder Chieftain, which is the big new model as well, that was up for pre-order last week, I believe. So if you want someone to lead the way, you have another option there as well, which is quite nice. And the Artisan series miniatures from Parabellum are gorgeous. They're essentially sort of alternative takes on stuff that already exists within the range, or they sort of get an artist in to sort of do something that looks kind of awesome, but sticks within the themes and feel of the Conquest world as well. So, yeah, some lovely big painting projects to dive into.
I'm 100% not looking at the Thunder Riders and the Tauntaun and the Army Builder at the moment. Very much doing that. 100% doing that.
I'm guessing very vicious. 100 Kingdoms Knights are not going to enjoy these.
Where are we? Trample 2, Brutal Impact 2. That's terrible because that just reduces all the defense. Impact 4 when they come in there. So that's additional attacks on top of their 5 as standard. Oh, there you go. Linebreaker, Unstoppable, and they can flank. Yeah, Thunder Riders and the Thunder Chieftain are just going to be making everybody cry.
They're going to be Triceratop of the list. People are building armies.
Boo, bad Ben.
Oh my God, the Tauntaur has 16 attacks as standard. Oh Jesus, March
That's
of the
just
Giants.
from it walking.
Yep.
Kicking you over.
It just doesn't stop, so it just walks through.
Yeah, it's certainly a way to do it. If you're a Wadron player, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're going to be in here.
You're winning
like nobody's business. I mean, they already have the Raptor Riders, so they've got excellent light cav, fast cav, but yeah, heavy impact cavalry to deal with. Not just 100 Kingdoms Knights. I think Cataphracts have appeared for the Old Dominion recently. So
just send them bowling away.
Honestly, if I'm against Spires, I'd even throw those into an Abomination.
Yeah.
Oh well, Abominations are just tanks. They're not particularly vicious, but they'll soon learn their defense just isn't going to cut the mustard when they come in.
The end of those horns.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop looking at that Army Builder. I'm going to close that because I don't need to add anything to
cry?
Madrid. No, I'm sitting on 2,000 points in Madrid already. I'm not saying I won't add them. I'm just saying not add them immediately. Right.
So moving away from shock cavalry to a shock for the Allies during World War II. We're looking at a new supplement for bolt action from the folks at Wargaming Games and obviously Osprey as well. So this is Italy Tough Gut, which continues the campaign pushing up through that lovely country where the trains run on time as the war continued into the latter stages of it. So this follows on from Soft Underbelly, which is what they thought was going to be the case when it came to attacking Italy, only to find out that they came up against some fierce competition. from both the Italians and the Germans and the whole of the Axis in general, really. So this is going to be following the battles that sort of spanned from the Gustav line in 1944 through to the Gothic line in 1945. And as you can see there, yes, you are going to get a lovely pre-order model. So that lovely cigarette-smoking, beer-drinking bear that carries your ammo is going to be there to fight alongside your Polish forces, which I think is very cool.
Fair enough. Carry that ammo up Monte Cassino. Go, go, go.
Exactly, yeah. He's going to come as the pre-order bonus for this book at the moment. Obviously, it'll come out separately as well, but I think there's no reason not to get yourself a lovely bear to use in your army and tell a little bit of more of a weird World War story, as well as it actually just being based in reality, which is amazing.
The World War was weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. In addition to that, Warlord have also put together a new sort of plastic set effectively for you to go and pick up, which contains the Italian Alpini mountain troops. They are some of the most elite Italian fighting forces out there during World War II, and they were experts at their craft. They were very hard to dislodge from the top of their mountains as they were fighting through them, which is a bit of a shame, really, because then the Germans decided to put them into battle on big flat plains.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Send the mountain experts to fight on a big flat plain against tanks. That's definitely going to work.
100%.
Thankfully, they were that good at their job, they managed to escape with sort of reasonably minimal casualties, which is quite nice. So at least they managed to get out of that sticky situation that the Germans put them in. But there we go. They have that trademark feather in their hat, which would be very nice for you to get painted up and add into your armies. So make sure to get your hands on some of those. And if you wanted to start blowing things up, you also have a couple of additional artillery kits for you to drop into the game as well. So you've got kind of like a summery spring version, and then there's also a winter version of these. You might be asking yourself, these look like anti-aircraft guns. They are anti-aircraft guns, but also they are anti-everything.
God bless
they're equally
the
good.
Yeah,
they are equally
Big
good.
gun, shoot tank, must work good.
Exactly. Yeah, they will punch holes through armor, flesh, buildings, aircraft, everything. As Jerry was alluding to, this was nicknamed anti-everything by one soldier during the time. So yeah.
Is that a plastic kit with metal crew?
I will be able to tell you in 1 second if we go.
It is.
Yeah. Because I know they've been doing the Alpini troops are plastic at least, so that's something you can have a look at here. But I think they're a mix of both probably. Although I'm not sure, they might even be looking down the Warlord resin route. I can't remember. I'll try and find out.
No, there it is. Plastic metal. Yeah. So
we go.
Metal crew with the plastic idiot.
There we go. So yeah, a nice little mix of things for you to be playing around with there. And yeah, a good way for you to continue your campaigns. Maybe if you're diving into some more bolt action over the summer, this would be a good book to pick up and dive into. So yeah.
Tell you what, if you're putting an idiot on the table for a 28mm/156 scale game, it could well be the objective, because my lord, I don't even know if we could hit you on a table that small. Degrees of difference, it's just going to be firing miles away.
Yeah.
It is essentially point blanking a tank.
Yep. Well, I don't think tanks should be in bolt action either. That's just me.
It's a skirmish game with infantry. We don't need tanks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 100%. Use the idiot as an objective.
Sorry, John.
Idiot's your objective, and then you're sending in people to knock it out so that you can allow air support or tanks to advance. That's how you play that game. But yeah, cracking models, really nice bits and pieces there, especially for the Italians. Good to see them still getting new stuff.
Yes, they're not all pushovers and they don't go in reverse. It's great.
Very, very true. Right, speaking of grabbing stuff, Conan.
Yeah. So Modiphius are in the last couple of days of their grab them before they're gone sale for their Conan role-playing game line. So a lot of people will know that they've had access to the Conan license for a long time. They've created loads and loads of different books based on Howard's work that use the 2D20 system, which has been used for a range of their different role-playing games as well. And this is the last chance for you to get your hands on both the physical books, of which some still exist, but most of it is going to be available in PDF form. So if you wanted to get your hands on all of these, maybe you've missed out a particular book and you just want to add it to your collection to complete it, this is a very good chance for you to get your hands on these, because by the 30th of June, they will be gone.
is this essentially a fire sale?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, but they don't have the license anymore.
Yeah, it's moving on. So the sale consists of everything that exists. So you've got the core rules, all of the supplements, game tiles, card decks, and loads of other things in between. If you're looking to get your hands on something Conan, this is a good opportunity to do so. You've still got until the 30th of June, so you could always try out the quick start sort of rules over the weekend, maybe play out a little bit of a campaign with your friends. If you like it, maybe then go in and pick up the digital rules for yourselves. From that point on, as you say, the license is moving on. It's going to be going to Monolith, who were the creators of the Conan board game, which is great fun. So they're going to be taking the reins of the Conan role-playing game for the foreseeable future. What shape that will take, nobody's quite sure at the moment. I think it would be cool for them to do it based on their own dice mechanics from the board game, because that's a really cool system, and I think that would be really nice. Although, of course, there is obviously the opportunity for them to do something with a 5e twist, because that would be a nice way to sort of onboard people into things as well. But we shall see.
Or use the new Orc license when it
comes.
Yeah.
They are good custodians of the Conan license, and they've made a lot of their board game stuff available to buy at retail now as well. So I'm sure they're going to do an equally good job with the role-playing game in the near future. But we shall see. If you want to pick up some stuff from Medivius, make sure to do it now. As I say, you've got until the 30th of June to get your hands on those before they vanish. There's your public service amount.
Half price on the on most of the PDFs at the moment. Although I see one or two there are they're gone completely. So yeah, the physical stuff went cheaper than knickers at dumb stores, and they've gone. Nameless Cults went from £25 down to £2.
Exactly.
Wow.
Because otherwise they have to take it and destroy it. They can't leave it stockpiled somewhere for people to maybe pick up in the future. It just gets mulched. So at that point, some money is better than no money at all. So physical product probably gone. You may be lucky on one or two books, but all the PDF stuff's all half price, and there is a lot of it.
Very much so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah. Cool stuff there on
you
that
have
front.
about, roughly 7 days to get in?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And with it being sort of RPG day this weekend, it's a good opportunity to sort of pick some stuff and give it a go. But maybe.
That's the way to do this. Right.
There's also apparently something else happening this weekend. There's RPG day, but then there's some other thing that's being released, I think. Like the Grimdark Future or something. I don't know.
I think I've heard of it. They're by Games Design Workshop. Is that it?
Yeah, something like
GDW?
that. Yeah. There's a guy called
it's a PG game, but not an RPG game.
Yes. So Leviathan is going to be launching this weekend, which was the sort of starter box, the big box game for 40,000 10th edition. But alongside that, they're going to be taking pre-orders for a whole host of additional content that'll help you get started in the game. So if you didn't want to get your hands on Leviathan, or you just weren't able to, don't fear, because you'll be able to buy the core book, which contains everything you need to know, including the sort of all the lore and the background and things like that, up to date, as you might have imagined, for Warhammer 40,000. It comes in both the sort of regular version, as you can see there, or you can get your hands on the limited edition version of the game. So it comes with the core book.
Pretty.
It is very pretty.
Sure, that's cheap.
Yeah. So you've got the core book, as you can see there. But then there's also that smaller booklet which takes out all the fluff, and it's literally just a gaming book. So it's just going to have all the core stuff that you can get online for free in there, which is quite handy, I suppose. You also get all of those art prints, and then you get the objective markers as well, which are designed for you to use on the tabletop, and it all comes in that slipcase. As I say, this one's obviously going to be limited edition, so if you wanted to get your hands on that, you're going to have to be quick off the mark on the weekend, because things tend to fly away.
I will say, when Leviathan, the pre-orders went up, we were basically done by the end of the morning for copies, just going, whoa. And we have made the DPD guy and Royal Mail cry this week, which makes me happy. And we're not done yet.
Rather than sacrificing psychers to the Emperor, it's sacrificing postmen to the delivery system. So,
sorry, but they were not happy when they saw it. Even the guy delivering our consignment was just like, I had to pack all of these myself, and I'm just like, okay, good job, thank you. We will help unload.
There's also the new Crusade book that is available. So if you want to play the more narrative version of Warhammer 40,000, where your army sort of evolves and changes, and units can get upgrades and scars and all that kind of thing. You've got options to pick up that, both in a sort of standard and a limited edition version of that as well. There is already a PDF online that allows you to convert your old Crusade army into the new edition. However, they haven't made the actual Crusade rules themselves free, which I think is a little bit of a shame, but it would be nice to see that pop up since they've been making pretty much everything else free at the moment. But there we go. There's also a couple of additional accessories that you can pick up as well this weekend. So there's the chapter approved mission deck. So this will be the main way that I imagine most people are going to be playing the game. It allows you to generate missions using a card deck. It was available in the Leviathan set. So if you already have that, or you're getting it this weekend, there's no need to pick this up, obviously. But it comes with ways for you to set up your games, how to set up objectives, secondary objectives, and everything else in between. So that's going to be for you to pick up. And also, obviously, it's themed around the Leviathan season at the moment as well. So it'll all be very tyrannic and that kind of thing. But then, last of all, there's also going to be all of the index cards coming out as physical products. So they're not, interestingly, they're not being sold as individual packs, if you know what I mean. So you can't just buy the Adeptus Sororitas or the Leagues of Votan or the Grey Knights. You have to buy a particular pack. So there's a Xenos pack, which will come with all of the Xenos factions, one for the Imperium, one for Space Marines, and then one for Chaos forces. And they come in at around the £13-15 mark for all of those,
It's not bad.
which is not too bad, actually. So you should do exactly what I'm doing with my friends. And we all collect Xenos races. So we've just decided to just buy that pack and then just split it, because then it's like a $5 each for all the things you need, which is pretty cool. So
no lie, at that price point, I'd nearly just buy the lot.
Well, yeah, a lot of people I know probably are going to do something similar to you, and they'll just buy every single one of those so that they can just play essentially with any army that they have in their collection indefinitely.
Well,
because
it also means if you argue with your friends, you can actually just go, oh, really? Well, I've got that card. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I will also say that the 40K app is now available, the new one. It's essentially a glorified calculator, but there we go. It's not as easy to navigate as they could have made it. But there, I also spent 10 minutes trying to work out why I'd armed my Primaris Lieutenant wrong. Yet to be told why, but there we go. But that is available.
It's not a great thing in an app, really.
No,
I thought the whole point of these things was to make me and my pen and paper redundant.
It tells
do the housekeeping for you.
Yeah, because it tells you that something's wrong, but it doesn't tell you what's wrong and how to fix it. So it's like, okay, sure. So I've armed him with a plasma pistol and a mastercrafted power sword, but why is it still telling me that it's wrong?
He probably still has his bolt gun.
I've taken it off him. I've taken it off him, and it still says it's wrong. I don't know
Warhammer
why.
app apparently is my old English teacher that would circle things in red that were incorrect, but wouldn't tell you why they were incorrect.
Yeah,
and then just leave you to sit back with, a dictionary, a thesaurus, and anything else you could find to try and work out, was a grammatical error, was it the wrong word, is it the wrong spelling? I don't know.
So, yeah.
Who knows?
Was it A before E except after C, was it?
Yeah. But I would heartily recommend, if you're diving into 10th edition, picking up those physical cards, because they will make things an absolute doddle and very
just
easy.
stop there as well. You just buy the cards.
Just buy the indexes and never buy a codex ever again.
Codex, and then that way you don't have to worry about the arms rush and power creep, because you're all.
You and your friends could own an entire game for free from Games Workshop. Who would have thought about it, man?
Yeah.
It's the way to do it. Right.
There we go.
I think that's enough of the news. We shall take a break, and when we return, 3D printing and Kickstarters. Okay, we are back, and we're ready to take a look at some 3D printing, which I believe is the shiz.
Yes, apparently.
We have been told this many times.
Kids tell me.
It is almost mandatory now, according to last week's XLBS as well. So, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, Jerry.
That's all right. I wasn't there.
Well, the thing is, we can look at it, but we can't make him do it.
That's true.
If I can't see it, can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Head in the sand. So, D&D as a woman.
Yes.
Discuss.
What?
Yeah, so that's the name of the company that we're going to be looking at today. So this is a collection over on Tribes through My Mini Factory.
Okay.
And it's all about creating awesome miniatures for you to use in your role-playing games themed around, as you might have guessed, ladies. So yeah. One of the things that I think a lot of people have probably realized is that there's quite a few role-playing miniatures out there, but in most cases, a lot of them are guys. They have sort of gone down the route of doing a lot more sort of different variations of characters over the last couple of years, obviously. But I think one of the nice things about this is that they've basically gone, what about if we try and make all of the classes and all of the sort of races, lineages that we can, but as a sort of female miniatures effectively for you to use in your campaigns, and that has essentially been what they've been doing for the last couple of months, which I think is really awesome. So you've got bards, you've got fighters, you've got barbarians, you've got all sorts of different races. So you've got tabaxis, orcs, elves, humans, dwarves, everything that you could think of. And
Are
in
there
the standard,
any GIF?
I don't know actually. I have not looked for GIF. We have to look for them. Or do you pronounce it GIF? I don't know.
No, I am. My name is not GIF.
GIF Yankee. But yeah, so they'll be doing a whole host of different miniatures for you to dive into and have fun with. They do what you'd imagine they do, where they create miniatures every month where you can go in and pick them up. But they've also been doing individual hero packs that you can pick up alongside busts and things like that. That's from a different little company there, but it's quite nice that they've been showcasing them, which is always nice to see. But as you can see, you can pick up a whole collection of different miniatures in different forms. You can just buy them individually, as you can see, or you can get them as busts, which is kind of awesome. I've always been very much the proponent of having kind of your miniature and then a bust that kind of represents them that you could then use as an initiative marker on the tabletop. So you could set that up and you could have one to represent like the creatures and then one to represent, your character. And then you could sort of move them around on the tabletop as you take an initiative. I think that'd be really cool because it turns it into a game in of itself. But yeah, anyway.
Herblog Bard.
Yeah, so you can have a big
sort of bit Greek.
Yeah, you can have a big furry sort of cow person bard, which is great.
I'm very confused because the Fearbog are Irish myth.
Yeah. So this one's now
apparently Greek.
Okay.
And has clearly turned a turtle into a lyre.
Tortoise shell harp.
Yeah. So maybe this Fearbog is actually chaotic in nature. We never know. But yeah.
I presumably it's some sort of race they've added into D&D.
It's a turtle one, yes, but a Fearbog, yes, is an additional race they've added into D&D recently over the last couple of years. But yeah, very cool. One of the characters in Critical Role in campaign 2 was a Fearbog. So yeah, I think it was a Fearbog. Yeah, I think he was. I think Caduceus was a Fearbog. Someone will definitely tell me in the comments below if I'm wrong. But there we go. But yeah, as I say, loads of different heroes done in a variety of different styles, covering lots of different sort of fringe races and lineages, things that you want to go down as well. So you've got your Dragonborn in there, you've got your Tieflings, you've got your Tabaxis, everybody wants to be a cat, and a whole host of different things in between. So if you wanted to make orcs or elves and all that kind of stuff, you've got
what's
that.
Kinu bird people.
Yes, the Kenku. Yeah. So if you too want to be the worst kind of bird person
with hands,
it's
the only reason I opened it, Ben, is because I knew even before Justin spotted it. I thought there's one to open.
Yeah, that's quite nice. Human Wizard's quite nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't obviously a massively new thing. Yep. Annie from Bad Squiddo has been doing female miniatures for a very, very long time and has done loads of adventures that you could use across not just fantasy, but sci-fi and post-apocalyptic and everything else in between. Even back in the day, Oathsworn did their own set of, well, Jerry's found his favorite miniature. Back in the day, Oathsworn did their own set of what they called Sensible Shoes miniatures. So it was female dungeon delvers, which was really awesome. But it's also just nice to see a company that is very much focused on doing this kind of thing to kind of bring, feminine characters to the tabletop for you to use in your games, especially covering a lot of different sort of races and classes that maybe would sit, as I say, on the fringe. Potentially.
Well, here's the question then. So from what they've made, what do we think is the oddest one?
The oddest one? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, from my mind, the worst is the Kenku.
So, it's not only is it playing guitar with hands, it's dancing. Look at it.
Silly, terrible bird people.
I mean, I'm seeing a turtle barbarian.
I quite like the turtle barbarian, though. I think that's pretty awesome.
I mean, it makes sense because they've got natural armor. To make up for the fact barbarians don't have armor, so many respects it's gaming the system. God, that's what that is.
Min-maxing turtles. That's
min-maxing turtles.
I quite like the Ironborn as well, the Ironborn Paladin, if you look down to the right. Yeah, I think that's really cool. So if you're wanting to try and do one of the Warforged, you can do, which is quite nice, and bring them to the tabletop. Powered by faith, but still an automaton. Yeah. clearly a terrible, terrible person, that Inquisitor. Dorothea is not the name of a nice lady.
I kind of want to see the Goblin Warlock.
The Goblin Warlock. Which one?
Where
there,
are we?
with the big hat.
Yeah, to the right.
Yeah,
There you go.
cool.
To the right.
There's even a centaur. Need to open the
Even a
centaur.
centaur.
And the Aarakocra as well.
I should Coco.
But yeah, very nice. The other thing that's quite
That's
good about this as well is that they've done them so you've got sort of younger characters, older characters, thin, sort of larger as well. They've kind of sort of gone through everything you could think of and created characters that would be very nice for a lot of people to dive into and create to sort of represent what they want to see on the tabletop, which is always good. So yeah.
I love Ben calling up a centaur. You've got the 2 ribcage problem again.
Oh God, yeah.
Quite like that.
Yeah,
For me,
The floating book.
floating books.
Yeah.
holding them, reading them.
And
Yeah.
thankfully, she's got a squirrel to tell her to stop being such a complete racist scumbag. Maybe not
Like,
murder everybody in the room just because they're not elf.
Here's a question, Jerry. Are those books perhaps Braille?
Oh, you're saying that's her seeing eye squirrel?
Oh, that'd be cool.
There you go.
Could be. Just don't take the support. Print it upside down. And whenever you clip the supports off, just leave all the bumps on the pages.
Oh, dear.
Boosh. Real
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver, me.
I like to think that the squirrel is actually the D&D character, and
Yeah.
the wizard is simply the vessel for their actions.
Oh, got an elf minion or an elf pet. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
remember what they're
yeah.
called when you've got characters.
familiar.
A familiar, yes.
Yeah.
Elf familiar who just carries
know-
stuff. Backpack full of nuts.
Well, I mean, they're born blind. Clearly, their parentage were some form of magic users and went, we are going to bind this small child squirrel to you. What's the changeling bard?
It's a bard that's also a changeling.
Okay.
Glad to have
The
cleared that for you.
dwarf lady also has a beard. Bonus.
Well, one does, one doesn't. The cleric didn't.
Yeah.
So clearly it's a choice.
It's a choice. It's a choice. Yeah. You've got your
Cleric,
Asimar as
cleric,
well. So you've got your
changeling
heavenly
bard.
angelic creatures as well. So yeah.
That's a nice little set of sculpts as well.
It
I
really
like
is.
that.
yeah.
That is very pretty.
It's one that I'd seen floating around on my mini factory for a while, but I'd never really had too much of a close look at. But it's nice to see that they've got a very extensive range. Obviously, D&D is massive, so having something like this is great for people who want to try and represent their characters on the tabletop. But you could obviously just use these for skirmish games as well. There's obviously other games like Lasting Tales is one which is very hero focused, cooperative and that kind of thing. So you could play games like that, Rangers of Shadow Deep, and everything else in between. Doesn't have to be for D&D either. Could be for Pathfinder or any of the other role playing games that exist out there too. So yeah, go and have a look at this.
Just the busts for a bit of a paint job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some respects, the busts do lose a bit, though. So, for example, there's the centaur bust.
Yeah.
It's like, is it a centaur?
Technically, yes, that is
Yeah.
correct. It is a centaur bust,
Yeah.
but at the same time, any
Yeah.
any other
At which point, being a boss, do you cut it off for the centaur? Is it the second ribcage?
I just want a pair of horse feet, just horse legs in the air.
coconuts, a couple of coconuts kicking around.
Yeah.
It's
But yeah,
so-
some brilliant stuff there
Interesting
for
one.
D&D adventurers. So yeah, very cool.
lovely little set of figures and some interesting painting possibilities as well.
I may have to grab one or two of those because we have a new 12K 3D printer coming in that I mentioned last week.
Mm.
So yeah, I want to see how it does with something like this.
There we go. Yeah, take something a little bit more detailed with all the sort of depth and grooves to it, like one of the Iron Forge potentially, and see how it deals with that.
Well,
That could be kinda
my
cool.
thinking is to test it out. I may grab a few from a few different 3D printing is the shits that we've done over the years
Mhm.
and see, who's good and who's not. Because again,
It's terrible. Come back and tell us the terrible ones only.
I will maybe select like 5 and run
Five
them out.
terrible ones.
I'm sensing this could be an actual segment in the future where we do something where you actually see what your results
If I
are.
follow through.
Yeah, that could be cool. You've always got to follow through, Justin.
There you go. Don't disappoint the community.
Unless, of course, you're farting.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry!
So
It's not Friday the 13th, mate.
we are going
Oh.
to finish things off with a triptych of
Yes.
Kickstarter
Yeah.
campaigns. So
Yeah.
we're going to start with Eldfall Chronicles, The Northern Wind.
I was going to say, talking of
Oh,
wins.
On point. Nice segue.
Right. So this comes from Free Company. We've looked at Eldfall Chronicles in the past. In fact, Jerry's actually done a Let's Play of the game.
Played it with young Shabo.
He did, yeah. So this is an evolution of their game. A lot of people kind of sort of look at this, and I think it's something that we talked about back when they did their first Kickstarter. If kind of think of it as like Fantasy Infinity, which is a really cool way to think of it. Comes with beautiful model, obviously. But the game itself of Eldfall Chronicles can be played in a variety of different ways. You can play it solo, you can play it cooperatively, you can play it in a standard versus mode that you'd expect from a tabletop game, or you can go down the route of Northern Wind, where you turn the game into a dungeon crawler, which is pretty awesome. So this is a kind of standalone expansion, an expandalone, I guess some people could call it, where you can pick up a collection of new heroes that could obviously just be used in the normal Eldfall game if you wanted to, or you can take them on this dungeon delving quest where you are looking to sort of save the world from a terrible, only demonic threat. The actual main campaign has a whole host of different sort of adventures for you to dive into that'll all sort of take you in different directions as you're sort of going through. So there's a branching narrative. They said there's kind of like 3 main storylines that you can follow. So even if you play it one time, you could come back with different characters and try and experience it again and see where it goes, which I think is quite nice. They've also been working on expansion content for this as well. So there's a couple of additional boxes you can pick up. There's one for the Blighted Rift Spawn, which sounds like an awesome pack, and it's got some very nice miniatures in it. And there's also one for the Goblin War Tribes as well. But as you can see, it's a game, especially in this case with Northern Wind, which is very much focused on drawing on that kind of Asian mythology and Japanese folklore and stuff in order to create an interesting opportunity for you to dive into and play the game.
I know it's a stupid little detail, but seeing the start of your dungeon actually being a Torii gate is quite cool.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. Yeah, it's giving me kind of Ghost of Tsushima vibes as well, which is always nice. But yeah, very cool.
It's very fancy because the standard game itself, where you play either versus or cooperatively, and creatures may come in and ruffle stomp you and poke you, but there are different factions there that have different, let's say, real world comparisons.
Sort of like an analog to them.
You've got an analog through the Greeks, through Japan, China, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but they've decided to focus in on one specific area for the dungeon crawl, so they're bringing more of the detail of the world itself out, which is nice, rather than trying to, I suppose, the standard idea would be, oh, right, we've got a game with 4 factions. Let's add another faction or another 2 factions through Kickstarter. Whereas they've gone, no, instead of just layering another faction on and bloating the game, instead making a different style of game within the world to sort of expand the backstory and the history of a specific area within it.
Yeah,
so that I'm on board with.
It's one of the things that's really nice. It's one of the things that's really nice about what Free Company have done with Eldfall is that it has the beautiful miniatures. It has the fun and interesting game that is very different from a lot of other things that are out there at the moment. But it also has that hugely in-depth lore to the world.
Yes.
Like back when we looked at the first Kickstarter campaign, I think we did a series of articles where we actually did like a little bit of a deep dive into all of that. And it was absolutely fascinating. So you're sort of seeing what they'd done and what they created. And there is so much to read over on their website when it comes to looking into the story for this game. So it's definitely not one of those where it's just shallow experience.
Holy Hannah, you get a lot and you're all in.
Yes. So yeah, you can go for like I say basic. You can go for a basic pledge, which just gets you the Northern Wind, or you can go for kind of like a big all-in deluxe one as well, which comes with pretty much everything you could ever need really for playing Eldfall Chronicles on the tabletop. So yeah, very nice.
Great way of doing
those amazing demons. Oh,
so they've got a very active Discord channel as well.
Yeah,
where people are always talking about both the game mechanics, the meta, because the tabletop miniature game is very involved. It has that infinity idea where actions have reactions, so things can constantly be in motion, and how you choose to exploit your opponent's movement is a key thing. So that there's a lot of in-depth conversation goes on about that, but I love these little Goblin War Tribe.
Looks cool.
And the other thing then is, I mean, this then obviously feeds back into the war game. So you've got a dungeon delver now where they're adding new monsters and the like, which means then they can be added to the main game if you play that as well. So instead of just having gargoyles or colossus or whatever it happens to be coming at you, now you've got the option to throw goblins and bits and pieces up against people as well. There's a spanking lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, definitely worth having a look at this one. As I say, I think it actually works as a really good entry point into Eldfall because you're diving into something that is inherently a cooperative dungeon delving experience. You're working at something together, and obviously you can play the regular game in that mode as well. But I love that this basically sets you up for a storytelling thing that'll invite you into the world, tell you an interesting story, show you all the different miniatures, like a handful of them to begin with, and then sort of guide you in. And then maybe from there, you'll sort of look at Eldfall in more detail and play the actual war game from there. So
yeah.
I mean, the deluxe is weighing in about 160, but even the core pledge, let's get away from that, because the early bird may be almost done by the time we go out. 94 quid, so a ton for the dungeon delve game. That's reasonable enough. In this day and age. Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Lots of stuff unlocked.
Yeah. Plus, presumably, some of the heroes, monsters and the like that cropped up from the game may be available in here as well. Because I see a Colossus is listed, and I know there's one. There he is, in fact, there. Yeah. That's the Colossus from the original game, and I think those are the elementals. So yeah, the Earth and Creature expansion from the game, you can pick it up with a bit of a money off. So what's that, 5th off?
Yeah, roughly.
Nice.
Bish bash bosh. And there's the Wayfarer's Warband. Oh, the Warbands are in here as well. Oh, great. Okay, I'm closing this now. I'm moving away. We're not going to speak about this again.
I sense a disturbance in the force, Jerry. Are you okay?
I'm fine. We're all fine here. How are you?
I'm okay.
There are 20 days left if you plan on getting involved in the Northern Wind, and it's already massively funded. So good time will be had.
Everyone else who jumps in is just going to get you more free stuff.
Yeah, that pretty much.
So moving on from a dungeon delver to another option for those adventurers looking to take to the tabletop. This one's from Loke Battlemats. We're getting a little bit of a preview of the Kickstarter, but it'll be live when you're viewing this and checking it out on Friday and stuff. So it's awesome at this exact moment. But yeah, so this is their Immense Dungeons Digital Maps for Discerning Game Masters Kickstarter. It is a series of, as you might have guessed by the title, a collection of digital maps for you to use with your virtual tabletops, whatever that might be, using all of the amazing artwork and assets that have been designed by Loke over the last couple of years, and sort of developing it so you can use them in your games like Roll20 and stuff like that for D&D and Pathfinder, everything else in between. They've designed a whole host of dungeons, caves, sewers, and then on top of all of that, there's a selection of tokens and tiles, as you were seeing being used there in the video, that will allow you to customize things. So obviously one of the things with the Loke battle mats that you get normally physically, you can open the books up and you can use the little kind of like stickers on them so that you can stick them down and change things up. With obviously this then allows you to do that in the digital realm as well, which is always nice. So you've got all of the classic artwork that they've designed, and you can just use their standard setups if you want, or you could change things up and add bridges and torches and everything else in between. And all of it, again, as I say, has been designed so that it can be used to create awesome digital tabletops, which a lot of people are playing at the moment. A lot of people during the pandemic turned to playing role-playing games online, and that has stuck around, and a lot of people still do that. I know I still play a lot of role-playing games through Discord and things like that, so having something like this would be really good, especially if you're someone who's kind of grokked Roll20 and all these different sort of tabletop systems online. Because
a question.
Go.
So, very important question. Are these pre-built maps or like sets of tiles you can then build together yourself?
Both.
Both? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. They're very important question for me.
They're also coming in, when you get the files, you get the VTT files, plus you'll also get the PNG files, or whatever they're called. So if you happen to use things like Photopea or Photoshop or Illustrator, you can go in and amend things and add your own distinctive parts to it. And if you're not an arty-farty type, then you can just go ahead and
run with what they made for you.
I have no idea how it works. Upload them to the interwebs.
Okay.
Throw them at the cloud. Anyway,
You can also, they've also designed them to be like high print quality. So if you want to print them and have them as physical elements on the tabletop, you can do that as well.
That's
but obviously, they've got their amazing selection of different books that you could play with if you really wanted to. I think they've done I think they said it's like 24 dungeons, 12 caverns, 12 sewers, and then like 12 other like mixed themes ones. All of them are high detail, as you saw. You could zoom in and look at all the little bits and gribbly things.
There's also a bonus one. If you back in the first 2 days, the first 48 hours, there's the Tower of Raptors Morn.
So now
a wizard's tower. So instead of dungeon delving, you're creeping your way up to the top to be exploded. Yeah. I did one of these towers once, and we hit like the 3rd level, and it was just 2 massive dragon snakes just doing donuts around it. It's like we opened the door to that, and it's like, maybe not.
It sounds very Tolkien. Yeah.
It was a tower that belonged to Rakshasa. I'm not going back in there. You can't make me.
They're weird backwards thumbs. Yeah.
Mum and Dad is how he described them. It's not good.
There is also included in this, there's a 5th edition adventure as well. So if you wanted to dive into that, there's a little quest you can play called Into the Depths, which obviously makes sense for a little bit of dungeon delving. So you can get that up as well. And there's also some free samples on there too. So if you wanted to look at these and see how they work within your own setting. So if you've set up a VTT or Roll20 or whatever, you can go and get those and sort of plug them in, see if they work for you. And if they do, come back and pick up the files from the campaign. Yeah. So yeah, very cool.
It's very, very nice indeed.
Very, very nice.
As
many people in our community will attest, who are all very sort of avid users of Loke, it's a awesome collection.
Why make a dungeon alphabet?
So that you can spell out funky things for your players, because as they're exploring and they can't see, suddenly...
So what, you're screwed.
Yes.
that type of thing, yeah. Why not do it that way? It's funny, I talked to Matt from Look Matt last year, and he was saying that for himself, and I think his Patreon he runs is something like this as well, where he makes obscenely big dungeons for his own games. And it's just been a case that if people want to, join him in this insanity, then that was the way to do it. But
brilliant,
they can never really print them out because they are obscenely big. There are things that he creates over weeks / months / years, and they've just got to such a extent that there's no way of actually ever physically producing it. So I wonder if this is another way of them sort of exploring
an outlet,
maybe.
Where you can essentially have 20-foot mat designed, but virtually, because then at least it can be accessed and used. There are 19 days left when this launches, which should be tomorrow. Touch wood.
As I said, there's some days left, and it's probably funded. So there we go.
Yes, that's how that one goes. But since there's the early bird on it and it's launching today, we thought we'd at least show that in case that's the sort of thing you're after. So then you don't miss out on the early bird by us waiting a week, which is all good in the hood. So now our last one is Escape from Projekt Riese. The second in the Paths Unknown series of the Zombie Tango Oscar.
That's correct. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. I'm having to try and keep lots of things in my head because I got distracted by Marco going, we're doing a Draugr-based Viking one. And
yeah. Oh, no, I worked through the interview that went out last Monday, and it was just like, Viking Draugr, you say? Please tell more.
Yes.
Like right now.
Yeah, very much so. So if you're unaware of Escape from Stalingrad Z, which is the prize for this week, if one lucky blighter gets their hands on it, good times will be had by all. It is a narrative, cooperative-based game where you escape from Stalingrad once things have gone very wrong and the dead have risen. So the game itself is played through a spiral-bound book. That every page is both the adventure scenario and the map you play it on. So it's a map-based skirmish game. Riese expands the story, takes you off into the mountains where Germans had a hidden base and Marco has decided the reason that this base was built and honeycombed through the tunnels of the mountain was because they were doing strange, unusual experiments in there that they shouldn't have been. So once again, another bunch of heroes who come from all manner of backgrounds, both special forces sent in to deal with this German mountain lab, plus possibly some survivors from the German mountain lab who locked themselves in a cupboard somewhere when things went wrong, and even local partisan fighters are all involved.
I love this video, by the way.
Marco's videos are great crack.
I mean, I think I just saw a zombie go through a wood chipper.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yep. It's probably the best way. There's some really weird and wacky stuff. Paolo Parente came on board and started doing some of the concept art and design work for some of the creatures in there that you'll see. So there's a whole host of people, including a kukri wielding Gurkha as well, just for sheer giggly shits. But there's a bunch of stuff. There are various ways you can get into the game. First off, what I'll say is it is standalone. You don't need to have or played Stalingrad for this to be available to you. You can pick up Stalingrad now at retail, or I think you can buy a copy of it in here as well if you want to go the whole hog. It is a narrative adventure, so things tie together, so you can play them in order. However, I do know that he said that one of the next games, I think he's got 6 stories currently in writing development stage.
Cool.
One is North Africa, so Africa Corpse,
What
which I think is a prequel.
The drama happened.
These 2 are sequential. The next one's a prequel, and the next one is the ultimate sequel.
Yeah, so they are all going to be standalone, and you can jump in, jump out, or collect a lot and learn the whole story, and each one will add more to the world to tell you what's been happening. But there are also different pledge levels, so you can go from the very basic print and play yourself at home to a travel set, which just has tokens, a few standees, no dice or pens or anything else. There's certain bits and pieces you have to provide yourself or print yourself to get like a very tight, small little bundle. But the standard sort of box set you can see here contains all the book, tokens, dice that you need, standees for the monsters, miniatures for the heroes, and that's the complete Projekt Riese. But if you want to go the whole hog, you can get the deluxe set, like the deluxe set we're offering for a winner for Stalingrad. It has miniatures to replace all of the standees. So everything gets to go in there.
Love it.
But it's a fascinating little game with both narrative choices. So there's branching paths within it, hence the Paths Unknown name for the system. But you can go along, you make choices. You might hear crying, and following that crying may lead you to a little baby, but unfortunately it will also have attracted zombies. But your choice is, do you just leave the little baby to die?
Yes.
As zombie munch food, or do you take it with you and try
Maybe
and fight
the
off the
baby
zombies?
is the zombie.
They did that in Z Nation. It was creepy.
There are a lot of things going on, but it's fascinating because then you've got replayability. There's also both a tabletop and a arena battle rule set that you can just download for free off Raybox Games website. So if you've got the miniatures of the standees and you want to play a bit more PvP, just squad against squad, or the arena where you throw a couple of fighters into a pit and let them clash, then that's doable as well. But you can see the figures themselves are lovely. Till survives Stalingrad, apparently. Not my game, he didn't. Sorry.
Well, I mean, looking at this, am I going crazy, Jerry, or do I remember that it's also built for solo play?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's solo and cooperative, so it's 1 to 4 players, but you're playing cooperatively. I think there is a PvP version sort of stuck in there, but really, what you're going to be doing is most of the time it's the exploration and the investigation. It's a game of survival, but you're also trying to work out what's going on, what's happened. So you make your way through in that respect, and then you've got things like the Big Alpha, Carl. That's the very Paolo Parente one there, right there.
Yeah,
and the Omega variant.
So cool.
I not only know, but no.
That's the scientist went, oops.
Well, clearly they had plans, and clearly those plans went horribly, horribly wrong.
Yes.
So yeah, the first game, barrel of laughs. I've been enjoying it. In fact, it may end up on camera because Shay asked me the other day, whenever I brought up the prize, he went, "What's the crack? Zombies, World War II, cooperative, set in Stalingrad. It's good. Can we play it?" I was like, "Yeah,
You basically
yes, we
ticked all
can."
of Shay's buttons.
I mean,
really
I
good.
will say, Jerry, count me in. And if
There you go.
Marco's
Yeah.
coming over or sending this one over for us to have a blat at, definitely I'm in.
I probably won't be sending one over because I'll just buy it like I did the last one. So it's just how that one goes. The reason we have a copy for a prize this week is he accidentally sent me a second copy.
Oh,
Because he sent me one in advance to thank me. He went, "I'll send you your copy air freight. We'll ship that over so you get it first." I'm going, "That's great." And then he didn't take my name off the mailing list. They sent a second copy. It's like, "Well, Marco, I've got a second one. I'm going to stick it up as a prize."
fair enough.
Marco's a great person.
You're not
so-
having it back.
Well, I mean, someone out there in TV land is going to get themselves a wonderful little prize.
I mean, a lot of people love kind of weird World War stuff. They love the Wolfenstein and COD zombie style things and that kind of thing. So this is perfect for that. And because it's, again, a little bit like what we're saying here, it's got the solo cooperative thing in it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that is going to be great for people to sit down and like win or lose together, which I think is always nice. So yeah.
So,
Or if your mate doesn't turn up for a game, just sit down and play.
That's
just
it.
sit down and play yourself.
So you've got staggered. So you've got a game organized. Somebody doesn't show up, so there's just two of you who play Beowulf.
Yes.
If nobody shows up and you're just there, Billy No Mates, then you play Escape from Stalingrad or
Yes.
Projekt Riese.
And if they turn up late, you just hand them a couple of character sheets from Escape from Stalingrad.
Yeah.
Just plow on that way. Right. There are 14 days, 2 weeks left. If you want to get involved in Projekt Riese, now's the time.
Yeah.
If you're very lucky, you could win Stalingrad. If you're not, you can add it to your pledge. Bingo bongo. Job's
There we
good.
go.
So
Winner.
everybody's happy. I'm happy because it may get me more stretch goals. Right. We are going to shoot the crow and leave you for a few days. We'll return on Sunday morning for the XLBS, where our Cult of Games members can join us over on tabletop.com for a gentle meander through our hobby and theirs. Otherwise, we shall return next Friday in this damnable heat for more of the same. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.